3P&R with Adam R. Welcome to 3P&R. I'm your host, Adam R. And joining me for this episode is Chef Alfie Crescentini. Alfie, how you doing, sir?
Good, sir. How are you, Adam? Good to hear from you.
Good to hear from you, too. I know you a lot of years. And through those years...
Yeah, we have.
yeah. And through the years, I've never asked you what got you involved with, what made you want to become a chef?
Do you want the long version or the short version, or kind of in between?
Yeah, go between, make it long.
All right. Well, I grew up in the restaurant industry. My dad had I'll call it drive-in restaurant, girls on roller skates, that type of stuff, like Mel's Drive-In on Happy Days.
Oh, yeah. Stuff. We should do that again.
No, thanks. My dad had one of the first or second ones in the state of Connecticut. And we sold hot dogs and milkshakes and burgers and subs and all kinds of good stuff. And all kids used to hang around there with their hot rods and everything like that. And, as we were growing up, and my dad, I started working with my dad when I was 10 years old. He used to stick me in the basement, peel potatoes. We had an automatic potato peeler. And he'd stick me in the basement, peel potatoes, make French fries. And everything was done by hand back then. This is way back in the 1960s. So as we got older, as I started growing up, he says, you see how hard he worked 7 days a week, 12 to 14 hours a day. And it was a hard life. He did very well for himself, but it was a hard life. And he says, get smart. He said, go educate yourself. He says, get out of this crazy business. So my mom and dad were kind enough to pay for my education. But if I wanted money, spending money, just go out and work, just like everybody else goes out and work. You go out and work. Only thing I knew was restaurants. So I started working part-time and doing different stuff. I went to school for environmental engineering. I wanted to be an environmental engineer and never made that. But I ended up getting into the nightclub business instead of restaurants. I ended up getting into the nightclub business for about 10 years. And then I got my first break into the real culinary world of getting out of fast foods, getting into the real culinary world of high-end eclectic type restaurants. But what people don't understand is all the skills and all of the knowledge and all of the organizational stuff that I acquired in a fast food restaurant advanced me tremendously in the world of real culinary, high-end, production kitchens. In 1981, I got my first break, got into a very good restaurant. And, you think Gordon Ramsay was nuts. This guy was crazy. This guy, if you went and tried to taste his soup, he'd try to grab your hand and stick it in a hot, pot of hot boiling soup, because that's his soup. You don't touch it. That's mine, So we went through all that kind of stuff. But that's how I got into the restaurant industry. Just by transformation. It's something, it's got to be in your blood. It's a passion. Okay. It's cooking is an art. I consider it one of the arts. It's called culinary arts for a reason, because it is an art. It's very artistic what you do with food, not just from visually, but from the flavors too. You're mixing all different types of flavors, just like you mix paints when you're doing a portrait or some type of a painting. You mix colors. We mix flavors, and that's part of being a culinary artist, and that's what we consider ourselves as culinary artists, without getting too, high on the hog. But that's how I got into the restaurant industry, and I just kept advancing myself. Opened 4 of my own places in upstate New York, and then came to Florida, opened a couple down here in Florida. And my biggest break in the restaurant industry is when I was in upstate New York. I got involved with a guy by the name of Chef Jean Morel. He came into one of the restaurants I was working one day, and I was petrified that this guy was in my restaurant. At that time, Chef Morel was one of the top 5 chefs on the planet. We're talking skill levels of Jacques Pepin and Julia Child. We're talking way above what you see on Food TV. Food TV is, we won't get into that right now, but we're talking extremely high levels of talent when you start getting into these guys. He came in, had a dinner, and he asked to talk to me. So I came out, sat down at his table. He invited me to sit down at his table. He says, may I give you some suggestions? I said, absolutely. I said, I'd love you to give me some suggestions. He goes, okay, take out your pad and pen. And I'm tapping on my coat, looking in my pockets. I got nothing. He goes, that's mistake number one. He goes, I'm not smart enough and you're not smart enough to remember all the ideas you come up with. He says, always have a pen and a paper and a pad in your pocket because you're going to come up with an idea, write it down. And he says, you're going to wake up in the middle of the night, write it down. You're doing something, write it down. He says, you're always going to have, this is way before computers. So he says, you're always going to have to remember this stuff. And he goes, and you're not going to be able to.
I mean, sound advice.
It's very good advice. So I got to take a little sip of water. Hang on.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm good. That's what I did. And then he says to me, the restaurant I was working in was closed on Mondays and Tuesdays. He says to me, he goes, I'll tell you what I'll do for you. He goes, I really like what you're doing. He goes, but you need some refinement. You need some help. You need some work. He says, you come into my restaurant, Monday and Tuesday. He says, you work for me. He says, I'm going to pay you nothing. He says, but the education you'll get, you can't get at the Cordon Bleu in France. He goes, he was that good. He was just incredibly good. So for about a year and a half, I went into his restaurant every Monday and Tuesday. And the things I learned about, there's like the 5 mother sauces and different things like this. There's things that you have to do in cooking. He got me so grounded, and the techniques that he used were so traditional. There's certain ways you do things, and those certain ways you do things, he embedded those into me. And from those certain, ground, I'm looking for a word. I can't find it right now.
The fundamentals.
The fundamentals. Yeah. Thank you so much, Adam.
You're welcome.
And the fundamentals that he taught me, from those fundamentals, you can branch out into thousands of different ways, but you have to know those fundamentals first. You're an athlete, whatever sport you're in, there's fundamentals in baseball, football, boxing, basketball. You have to know those fundamentals, or you're never going to be a Michael Jordan or an Allen Iverson, and whoever it's going to be, or Larry Bird. There's fundamentals to everything, and there's fundamentals in cooking too. And he was kind enough, because it was free, he was kind enough to show me all that stuff. And from that point on, I just kept branching out and doing different things, trying different stuff, and that's how I got into the food business. And I've been in it ever since.
You also got to care, right? Because I'm not going to name the place, Alfie, right?
No names.
Right. I stopped in this place yesterday. It's a health food place, right? Where I'm going to get a Greek bowl with rice.
Mm-hmm.
And I see the counter. So let me start with this. The girl walked out. She was wearing a black shirt and black sweatpants. She looks like she just got out of bed. Right. And then I see the counters, right? I'm there with my friend Caitlin. I see the counters, and there's dust on the counters. Like, Carrie would never let this shit fly.
No. He's talking about my wife, and she was always the front of the house, and I was always in the kitchen. And I always used to, right, is high on the hog. Chefs have very, very high egos, very big egos. You have to. It's just part of our nature.
Well, it's attention to detail. Because remember, Carrie, when you were polishing silverware and glassware, she would inspect it. It wasn't like you just did it and your side work's done. She inspected it.
Absolutely. There used to be a thing years ago called a Zagat survey, which was really, the standard of what we used to go by, who was, great restaurants and everything. And the restaurant we had here in Clearwater, we used to make the Zagat every year. The problem is her service in the front of the house, the rating she got on service and attention to detail and everything in the front of the house was always higher than my food. Yeah. I thought I was really good at what I was doing. She just blew me away, and she used to just sit there and smile at me like, I'll show you how to do it someday if you really want to. So, yeah, it doesn't work that way anymore, Adam.
No, it's a shame because, the Carrie's attention to detail front of the house, like all right, so let's fast forward to where I meet you, Jack Willie's, right?
Okay, yeah.
And even that place was just like a sports themed restaurant on the water. It was like a tiki bar, sports grill. But even there,
burgers and fish sandwiches and stuff.
And even there, she exampled what it was to have like a dining experience. Like there was silverware rolled. There was, your B&B plates were on the table and you were greeted at the door. It wasn't like, like if you go from where we were at Jack Willie's to like, let's say some other sports bar on the road, you walk in and you're a statistic, right? Like I said, here's your thing. We'll call you when you're ready.
Absolutely.
Carrie made it very personable, right?
Yes, she did. Absolutely. She's a very personable person. And that's part of the culinary experience that you should get. You know, I always say I don't go out to eat much anymore. It's just my choice.
Right.
But, if you go into a place, there's a place I go to breakfast every once in a while. I'm not going to mention any names, but for two people to eat breakfast, $30. That's a lot of money for breakfast when you go down to a local joint and get, $5, $6, $7, you can get bacon and eggs. But this place is $30. It's got a lot of different stuff in it. In my attitude to this whole thing is, if you're going to command me to pay $15 for breakfast, you better be on the money with everything that you're doing. I will give you the $15 for breakfast, but you're going to have to give me everything I expect, from service to greetings to cleanliness to everything. And I never, ever get it.
Yeah,
I don't.
It's unfortunate, man. Like, so people understand, like Jack Willie's is a fun place, right? It was owned by David Cohn from the New York Yankees. It was owned by Billy Connors from the New York Yankees. And, they had some clout when it came. Because I remember Steinbrenner showed up for like a luncheon. Remember we had the whole back area locked off. Some of the Yankees, Derek Jeter's showing up. So they had some clout. But Carrie really elevated the experience there. And then the cooking you brought, like, you took basic sports bar cooking. So I remember the news would show up and do like little pieces on it.
Yeah.
You elevated something that should have been simple, but it became greater. And that place, might I add, in that time, prior to your arrival there, was doing nothing.
No, it wasn't.
It was
junk.
I used to drive by it all the time. And when you were there, forget it. You basically had to get reservations to get in that place, even with the outdoors deck.
Yeah, it was, Carrie was trained by this couple. Their name was Tommy and Linda Breen, which was in Hillsdale, New York. And Tommy was a graduate of Cornell. They have a fantastic culinary program at Cornell University. I don't know if they still do, but they had it one time. And Linda was trained by a lot of very exquisite French style cooking, just a high-end French cuisine. And she worked for them for about 2 or 3 years, and they taught her everything about, the culinary experience from the back of the house with Chef Tommy. And in front of the house, Linda was as much of a perfectionist as you're going to find. And she was just she was a great teacher. And Carrie picked up on all that stuff. And it didn't make any difference if you were getting pancakes or you're getting a Chateaubriand. The service should be the same. You should be able to get the fine service. Service doesn't go by dollars.
Right.
Service is all inside. It's what you want to give to the people that you're waiting on.
And that's what brings us back to that word, care. You got to care, especially if you want to be a successful business owner. See, that's
absolutely.
So, let's rewind. Before you were recruited to Jack Willie's to help turn things around, Carrie and yourself were in fine dining, Grill of Feather Sound, Grazzi's, and other places.
Right.
So again, so people understand this place is owned by Yankee players, right? and Yankee coaching. So they had money, right? It's not like they didn't have money. So when they recruit someone like you, it's because they really, really want to improve two things: the quality of the food and the quality of the dining experience.
Correct.
And yeah. And so, and you remember they even brought a guy in from Japan to make their sushi. Like they flew this guy in. You remember that?
Yeah, they flew. What was his?
I can't remember his name. He's a shorter dude, man. Japanese guy.
He used to make sushi. They flew him in from Japan. You're right.
And I forgot about him. Yeah, he was really good too. But he cared. He was very anal about his workspace. He didn't want anyone to hang around. He always cleaned after everything. Like, that's why I remember watching that. He would clean. No matter how many plates were in front of him, he didn't rush anything.
No, you don't rush anything. There's an old saying we used to use in the fine dining. Speed is essential, but not a priority.
Right.
You got to be fast at what you're doing, but it's not the priority. The priority is the quality of the food, not how fast it goes out.
Right. And presentation as well. Because
Absolutely.
think about
People eat
this.
with their eyes.
Yeah, think about this at Jack Willie's, and this is what I remember because Mary, the lady we had in the office, she was good friends with Jen Holloway, who worked in the news, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she would get her people to come in, and what really set the tone, I remember anyway, was I remember what plates were at that place because before I even worked there with you, I stopped in there because it was not far from where I lived, and I'm not kidding. You would get a grouper sandwich in a plastic basket with some paper, right? And you can see the oils just running off it.
Yeah, that's good.
Right, where it gets to where you get involved, it's plated. There's garnish.
Yeah.
It was done right.
Yes. Yeah, just because you're only paying at that time, you're paying like $7 or $8 for a grouper sandwich. Seriously, you were.
Yeah, that's true.
Doesn't mean that you shouldn't be able to get something that's very appealing to the eye, plus being very appealing to the palate.
Right.
There's no reason why you shouldn't. If you're not going to do that, don't mess up our business. Don't go into the restaurant business and mess everything up.
Right.
The issue is, Adam, from the business point of view, I was also hired to make them money, which we did.
Right.
That was the other part because they were going broke.
That's an understatement. Your turnaround in there, listen, so people have a good perspective in mind. You go to Google Maps and look this place up. It's literally backed up to a boating yard, right? Mm-hmm. On some water where the tide came in and went. It was pretty significant. So it wasn't like this elaborate beach bar. But
no.
By the time you did what you did with Carrie and they brought you in, and then you even right down from the busser to the cooks, like it was redone, right?
Absolutely, you have to. Everybody's important.
Yeah, and so you go from that point, and on a weeknight, forget it. It was mobbed. You could not get through that place. The food quality went up, the entertainment went up, the dining experience, the quality of the tables. And so that's a prime example of if you really care, yes, invest the money into people who are going to turn your business around because it's going to become very profitable.
Absolutely. Because, the issue I see in being in the industry for 35 years, the issue I see now is when I started in this industry and even the first probably 10 to 15 years, I was maybe into 20 years I was in the industry. Restaurants were run by restaurant people. They're run by chefs. They're run by, servers that turned into general managers, that new chefs that got together. And there was always, something that somebody knew something about restaurants. Right. Nowadays, most of your restaurants are run by accountants. They just want the bottom line to be X amount of dollars. I was working for a company. Not very long that I worked for the company. I was working for a company on a Saturday, and you know how it is in the back of the house in the kitchen on a Saturday night in a very busy restaurant. Sometimes you have 15 to 20 tickets hanging on the line, so you're cooking as 10 or 15 things at the same time. And you have a line full, maybe 4 or 5 chefs on a line cooking, and you got an expediter, and you got people in doing different things running around. The general manager comes in and looks at one of the guys and calls out his name, whatever his name was, John or Joe, whatever it was. He goes, "You're going into overtime. Take your apron off and go home." And I looked at him. I went, "Excuse me?" I said, "Who's going to put the food out? Who's going to take his place?" He goes, "The other guys are going to have to kick in." I said, They don't have the time. They're not going to be able to do this. Your customers are going to suffer." He goes, "We don't do overtime in this place." So the customers suffered, the quality of the food suffered, so they can keep their percentages at whatever they wanted. And I said, "I think it's time for me to get out of this industry." I said, because nobody's concentrating on service, customers, or quality of food.
Yeah, another big problem too. A long time ago, Florida, privately owned restaurants were like pretty big. And now,
absolutely,
now it's corporate. It's everywhere you look. It's corporate.
Tampa, Florida was the home of Outback Steakhouse. That's where they started, in Tampa, Florida. Huh. And Outback at one time was the biggest restaurant chain on the planet. And I don't know what happened to Outback, but they're not the same as they were 20 years ago. And now you have all these corporate franchises or whatever you want to, whatever way it runs. And there, if you go up to the top of the top of the board of directors or whoever it is that's running these places, I'll guarantee you that it's some type of business guy with an accounting degree or businesswoman with an accounting degree, and they have absolutely no idea
right
how to, and the worst people to get. No, I'm not going to go there. Well, we'll stop.
Well, yeah, I mean, like
there.
the point I make on that too is like when you would drive from Clearwater Beach and go all the way south to St. Pete Beach, you would find really wonderful privately owned restaurants.
Absolutely.
And now you don't. It's all it's uniformed. It's creepy.
Yeah, everything's the same. Everything's the same. We just copy. One of my restaurants in upstate New York, well, one of our actual theme to the restaurant was our dishes are created, not copied. We would not put a dish on our menu that was like a chicken marsala or chicken parmesan or whatever it was. Right. We wouldn't do that. Myself, Carrie, and the other chefs that work with me, we would sit down and we would look through cookbooks, again, no computers, look through cookbooks, come up with ideas and create new ideas and new dishes. And that's what made that restaurant successful, because they can only get what we did at our restaurant. You couldn't get it anywhere else.
Right. And then again, like places like Jack Willie's, it's backed up to the water. It's got that outdoor element people desire, especially in Florida, right?
Sure.
And it was a fun place. I enjoyed every minute there. Again,
so did I.
For me to discover that place, I left the gym. I was working out, doing some sparring with the boxing guys, hitting weights, and I was riding my bike home. I tried not to drive, right? And I'd pass by there. I'm like, you know what, man, I'm gonna get a job there, just to make extra cash, side hustle. And I got an interview, got the job, and upon meeting you, I liked to learn. And what you did in your restaurant was you didn't really look at someone for their credentials, especially a younger person, more like what they could put into it, right? This guy's willing to learn. He'll start as a busser, start serving, bar. I was a do-all in that place.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You're a great hire. The reason why I don't remember who did the interview.
Danny Huddleston.
Was it really?
Yes.
But, within the first week, Carrie says, watch this guy. She goes, this guy's got what it takes to. She goes, this guy's got what it takes. She goes, he's going to be a very, very good employee. And you ended up being one of the best employees we've ever had.
Yeah.
And the reason is it wasn't because of your restaurant experience. It was because of your attitude going into it.
Right.
And you always wanted to learn. You always accepted what we told you. If you didn't think it was right, you didn't worry about speaking up, because that's the way we ran our businesses. If you see something wrong or you don't agree with what we're doing, question me. Absolutely question me. I'm not always right on everything, but I can give you reasons why I'm doing it that way, and I'll be more than happy to tell you why I'm doing it that way. So that you don't find anymore. That you go into a place and they give you a list of different things you have to do at this time. You do this, and this is how you do this, and this. Well, there's always better ways. There's always a better way of doing something. But they don't want to listen to that anymore. Well,
for you especially, you became someone I admired, I aspired to, right? And you could see that exampled in some of the very people that followed you from restaurant to restaurant over the years. Like Johnny Castrican and Danny Huddleston followed you, and
we had employees for years and years and years that just would follow us from one place to another. Right. We treat our employees very well.
Yeah. So what ended up happening there is I ended up caring about my job. That went from a side hustle to I care about my job. I like it here. Mm-hmm. When I first started working there, I was talking to you on the phone not long ago. I worked 117 days straight, no day off.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to. I would even go on days off and help work and help do stuff, but that's because when you have people like you, Carrie, and the staff you brought along, like Danny and Johnny, so those environments, it's not just your job anymore. It's an extension of your family, of a place to be.
Because Richard Branson, the guy from Virgin Airways, and Virgin Airlines, his whole philosophy behind the whole thing is, take care of your employees before you take care of your customers. Because if you take care of your employees and treat your employees well, your employees will treat your customers well. And that's exactly what we have done our whole life. We have taken care of our employees, and our employees turn around and take care of their customers, take care of our customers or guests, whatever term you want to use. Right. And that translate that caring for your employee is is pushed forward onto your guests or your customers that are coming in, because they're very, very happy to be there.
Right.
It's not just a job to them and looking at their watch. I could still have another hour here. I hear that all the time. Oh God, one more hour and I can go home. I said, you really hate what you do that much?
Yeah. Imagine.
I couldn't work in a place like that. If I couldn't wait to get out of there, we used to shut down and hang around, if you remember.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah. It was pretty, because that entire group of people, not even after it closed, we'd go out and hang out, have drinks together, go bowling or shoot pool or whatever it was.
Sure.
It really became like a little family group, right?
Yeah, it did.
And so you fast forward from Jack Willie's to, again, so people understand, this is owned by, baseball figures, a lot of money, and they recruit someone like Alfie, which means they when someone that has that kind of money recruits you, one, it's a compliment to you. Two, they really wanted to elevate their food and service, right? So they showed initiative. Now, let's fast forward to Belly Timbers, and this is another example of you and how you interact with your employees, and your track record overall as a chef. Belly Timbers was a fine dining restaurant. Culinary.
Yes, it was.
Oh no,
Yeah.
It was like a steak and potatoes place.
Yeah, we had it was a prime steakhouse is what it was, that had a lot of eclectic foods.
Right. So upon you having that, because I remember I was at your house, right? You're like, hey man, this is what we're doing. Keep it to yourself right now, right? So I joined on to that. But an example would be how many, you didn't really need to find staff. It was, you had them. Your reputation, they followed right in. Not even question.
They used to come walking in the back door.
Yeah. So that place was an amazing, the food there was amazing.
Yeah, it was. We did a good job. And again, it's not me alone. There's a lot of people that it takes to put any chef that tells you that I do this and I do that and don't listen to them. They're just stroking their egos.
Yeah.
It's a group of people that put these things together. And Adam can contest to this. There would be times where I come up with, you have a menu items and you run a couple, 3 specials at night. I'd come up with something that I thought was the greatest thing on the planet. And we would give it to the servers, general manager, whoever else was out there, bartenders and everything. We would give them one to try at the beginning of the night so they know what they're selling. And within the first bite or two, I'd look around the room and their servers are like,
yeah.
And I'm going, it's that bad, huh? Oh, we can't sell this. It would go in the garbage. Yeah. If the servers don't like it and the bartenders and the managers don't think it's a quality product, it doesn't make any difference what me, the chef owner, thinks.
Right.
If they don't think so, they're going to tell me, because if they don't tell me, it's going to be a dog. And that's not a good idea. So those are the ways that really good restaurants, really fine restaurants that are run properly, listen to their employees and tell them, and the employees have no fear of coming up to me and going, I'm not taking that plate out into the dining room, fix it. It doesn't look good.
Yeah.
And I used to have that all the time.
Yeah. So people know I ate really well when I was working with Alfie all the years.
Yeah, you did. Oh yeah, you did, Adam.
Yeah.
That's okay.
You
earned it.
I ate really well.
You earned it, man. You worked hard.
I appreciate it. Yeah. I mean, those are great times too. So to you Belly Timbers, so people understand, it's it was really like a Florida style fine dining steakhouse. Mm-hmm. Really high end.
We had prime steaks out of Chicago. They used to be delivered to us once a week, fresh steaks. We used to have them delivered to our back door. And we had all the different, red snapper, grouper, yellowtail, swordfish, tuna. We had different types of fish on the menu, and we used to get these shrimp. They were U10s, which means they're under 10 to a pound. They're massive. They're huge shrimp.
Yeah, I remember those.
We used to get these shrimp. They were, at this time, they were called cold water blue shrimp. And where they used to come from are the deep cold waters of the Pacific Ocean. There's only a couple companies that had them, and they were so good. Those are the different things that we went out and we found these different things that would make us a little bit more special than everybody else. But these are the things we used to do. We used to do that. We used to do different types of chicken and duck and different types of pork. We tried everything. We served there. We served elk there. We served antelope there. We served black bear, buffalo. I'm trying to think of.
I remember sampling that stuff
Yeah, we had there's a couple farms at that time. We're talking over 20 years ago. There's a couple farms that used to have farm raised antelope and elk, black bear, buffalo. Well, there's a lot of buffalo around served now, but we used to serve a lot of different types of wild game, and we had a wine list that was just wow.
Oh yeah, I remember.
I mean, we had a wine room that was
it had to be custom built.
Yeah, it was
because there was
built.
such a selection.
I don't know if you were there at that time, and God bless him, and he was such a sweet person. He really was. Billy Mays, you remember Billy Mays?
Yes, I remember. Because I remember going to his table. I remember one quick memory. I went to his table. I was like, "Listen, don't be in shock. Yes, it's me."
Billy Mays used to come at the restaurant with a cardboard box full of OxyClean and Orange Clean and all this other stuff. And he'd say, "Do you mind if I go around and give this stuff out?" I said, "Billy, just be Billy. Just be who." And Billy Mays, what you saw on TV, Billy Mays was like that in person.
Yeah, so people don't know is he was a pitch man, a hype man.
Yeah, he's not a salesman. He's a pitch man. There's a huge difference between us. And this guy, and he says to me, he goes, "I have one request for you." I said, "What's that, Billy?" He hands me a bobblehead doll, a Billy Mays bobblehead doll. He goes, "Could you put this in your wine room?" So right in the middle of the wine room, because it was a glass wine room. One side of it was all glass. Right in the middle of that window, I put a Billy Mays bobblehead doll. And I remember him. He was such a nice person. He was as sweet a person to people in person as he was, and he was just a nice guy. And I just remember Billy because of he had a larger than life personality.
Yeah.
His personality was unbelievably, people just were drawn to him.
Yeah. Listen, for those of you who don't realize, for as a pitch man, this guy made money. He remember he had what was that? A Rolls Royce?
Yeah. He had a Rolls Royce Silver Cloud. Yeah.
He did. The damn thing, the door opened. It was basically a couch in the back.
Yeah, he was. Billy was a good man. And,
you know that
he wasn't afraid to share his wealth either.
No, he was actually a generous person.
Very generous person.
Yeah. Anyone that tips me $500 for just bringing $500 just for hanging out with him for 30 minutes.
Yeah, Billy was a very generous person because he grew up on the boardwalks in New Jersey, with nothing. And he made what he made out of, doing what he did, learning how to be a pitch guy. Just because he had wealth doesn't mean he didn't share it, and he shared it with a lot of people.
He had an amazing residual agreement with OxyClean.
That I didn't know.
Yeah, because he told me I remember being tableside, and I was like, "Yeah, man. I mean, you're going to slow down commercial." He goes, "Listen, man, I don't want to do a commercial ever again." My royalty residual payments from him. It's like he had investments in him. He made me laugh. He's a really genuine guy. It's a shame what happened to him.
Yeah, it was.
And it seemed minor too, right? It was an airplane.
Yeah, got off an airplane and died in bed or something.
Yeah, he hit his head and it put I guess a clot or something. I don't know. It's nuts. You know that wine glass, by the way. I remember them installing that. That was like inch thick glass. That wasn't thick.
Yeah, it was an insulated glass, and it was a really spectacular wine room. It was a really nice wine room.
Yeah, that was a remarkable place.
Yeah, we had a lot of nice wines in there too.
Yeah, and here's another. I forgot all about this too. I've seen at Jack Willie's especially seen a lot of celebrity types come there. Because the clout of the Yankees guys. My favorite ever was Frank Howard, the home run king, 68
Frank
home
Howard,
run king.
Yeah, he was a character. Frank was a real character.
He was. Listen, he signed a bat for me, right? You remember he signed a bat and a ball. He goes, "Here, kid, take this. It's not worth shit because I signed 1 million of them." I was like,
"Yeah, right."
I was dying inside. It was so funny. I was like, but I did get through Billy Connors, to his credit, rest his soul. I still have it, a Roger Clemens Cy Young ball.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah, I still have that thing in a piece of plastic. I'm not even sure it's worth it. I'm not sure I'd ever part with it. But that's the amazing part of those businesses and in that area, and you getting to know people over years. Now we fast forward. You had a medical condition that put you on a different diet.
Yeah, I did.
So you don't have to go into pure detail what happened. Ultimately, it was a widowmaker, a heart attack, and then from there introduces you to a plant based. Let's
right. What happened is Adam said I had a widowmaker. I was rushed to Tampa General Hospital. Fortunately, there was a doctor there that was able to, so actually 4 surgeons that were able to put me back together again in 7 hours. And I'll never forget when I woke up, the doctor says to me, he goes, at this time I was 270 pounds. I'm 5'10". I was 270 pounds. I'm this little roly Italian guy, that's just kind of as round as I am tall. And he looks at me and he goes, your body can't handle what you're doing. He says, you have to change your life. You got to change your whole lifestyle. He goes, if you keep doing what you're doing, he goes, you will die. He goes, but it's your choice. It's your life, your decision. I never forgot those 4 words, your life, your decision. And I decided, and that was in 2012. I decided after that to go plant-based. One of my friends is a naturopathic crazy man, and he'd been studying this stuff for 30 years. I always thought he was absolutely nuts, but he's not nuts. And I changed my lifestyle completely. Like I tell people, I'm Italian. If you cut me, I bleed salami and provolone cheese. I don't bleed blood. I mean, that's what I grew up on. I grew up with that kind of stuff. And but it took me almost 2.5 years to change from eating pork and chicken and dairy products and beef and hamburgers and everything else to going to a completely plant-based lifestyle. And that was probably about a little bit over 8 years now. I've been plant-based. I eat some fish. I eat a piece of fish every once in a while, but I don't eat any dairy products, no beef, no chicken, no pork, none of that stuff. And that's my decision to do this. And I don't look at, if I've gone out to eat with you, and if you want to eat yourself a Philly steak, knock yourself out. I'll eat what I eat. I have no issues with it. It's your life, your decision.
Right.
And but I'm 205 pounds now. And when I was 200, after the first year of eating plant-based, I got down to about 210. I'm 205 right now, and I've held that weight for 8 years. And I eat like a horse. I eat anything. I eat as much as I want, but it's not. It's not the saturated fats and everything else that comes along with all that other stuff. And being plant-based isn't sitting down and eating a bowl of kale every night. It doesn't work that way, guys. You still got to balance out. You still need your carbohydrates. You still need your proteins. You need all your amino acids. You need all that kind of stuff. You got to know what to eat and what not to eat. And over the past 8 years, I've learned a tremendous amount about the difference in foods. And doing plant-based menus and doing plant-based meals is something that I've done for the past 8 years. And do I miss it? I'll tell you what, when my neighbor fires up his barbecue and throws a rack of ribs on there, it's really, really hard.
Yeah, it's punishing.
Not to want some of those ribs. He does a pretty good job on them. But it's just my decision to do something like that. And part of what we're doing is, if people want to do a plant-based or even 50% is better than nothing. Right. You want information about how to do plant-based stuff and how to do plant-based cooking, we're here at your disposal. We'll be able to do all that stuff for you.
Yeah. So to let people know, I was at your house. You prepared several different plant-based meals, even a plant-based sausage, right? And then burritos. Yeah. And they were all packed full of flavor. Now, some are going to argue like, well, this guy's a chef. He knows how to make things taste good, which, all right, fair enough. But ultimately, this is things that you're going to teach. So on the subject we're going to move to now, Alfie is going to have a channel about cooking, right? I'm not going to go into details of what's going to be there. It's really, listen, it's much different than other cooking channels.
Absolutely.
I mean, the concept alone in it, it's not been viewed anywhere so far. So Alfie's Simplistic Kitchen is going to be the title. And that being said, he is a plant-based diet currently, but that doesn't mean it's only the show's going to feature just plant-based. It's going to example every element of culinary
absolutely
right from moms that want to cook for their kids and pack it through the week versus the most high-end dinner you could make for your loved one or your family.
Correct. Absolutely. The most important thing, for a family of 4, family of 5, whatever, or just family of 2 or 3, whatever it is. The most important thing is to get what you like to eat. Get as much nutrition into your body as you possibly can out of the meal that you're making. And the meal doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be, over elaborate. It can be very basic and still be really, really good. The issue I have with most cooking channels and things you see on television and all these other things, it's not realistic.
Right.
We're going to have a realistic channel that is going to teach you how to prepare and how to make foods on a daily basis, weekly basis. You have guests coming over to your house. You have a couple, 3, 4, 5 people coming over to your house. How do you make that real special dish and bring it out to them and sit it down and be able to be be that chef or be that cook that you always wanted to be? You just don't have the knowledge. You don't have the access to somebody that can teach you. Now you have the access with myself and Adam. You will have the access to be able to cook anything that you absolutely want to, from something that's extremely exotic to something as simple as the best omelet you've ever had.
Right.
Because there's ways of making omelets that you make them, and there's ways of making omelets that you don't.
And the best part about this is it's not just there's going to be a lot of variety, right? A very diverse channel.
Lots of variety.
And then you'll have anything from, if you want to learn certain meats to cook, proteins, sure, or even a plant-based diet. If you want to make food that's going to last through the week, you can make it on Monday and it's good till Friday.
We'll show you how to package it up and how to put it into packaging, and a little spot in your freezer when you need something. You're going to have a busy day, and you got 3 people to feed when you come home that night. You take it out, put it in the refrigerator. You come home, put it in a pot, and you have yourself a meal. Yeah, and it's already done for you. And it takes a lot of pressure off of people. And
there's going to be other ones too. And I'm going to collaborate with Alfie on a lot of this. Like the heavy protein. If you want to work out, you want a good strong protein diet and what to do to get put on some muscle. We're going to example that. If you want to be more heart conscious, we'll have that, right? So it's going to be very diverse.
That I know how to do.
Yeah. Well, that's why I walked you through your whole life in the culinary, so people can see it's going to be diverse, and I'm excited for it because look.
You're excited for it because you get to sample everything that we're cooking. That's why you get excited about it.
That's exactly right. I'm going to be on location for filming. I'm going to be well fed again.
Yeah. Okay, just like the last time, we were here, we made some quesadillas.
Yeah.
Okay. No, those were all plant-based quesadillas. There was no meat in them of any kind. We used vegan cheese, and now those were good. You said you really enjoyed it. They come out really, really good.
They were very good.
They're very good. Now, people who don't want that, and they want to put chicken and really sharp cheddar in there, but we did that in 15 minutes.
Not even.
We made not even. We made quesadillas. I made enough quesadillas for 3 or 4 people. These are the big ones too. These are 12-inch quesadillas. We put it all together, and we had ourselves some quesadillas with salsa and some guacamole, and everything else was on them. Yeah. So there's ways of doing all this stuff that's it takes, don't get me wrong, folks. It takes time. You have to have time to prep your foods. You have to have time to chop your vegetables or cut your meat or, do the other things. It does take time.
Right.
But there's ways of doing this stuff where you can do it once and have enough for 3 meals. You don't have to do it one time and next time do it again and next time do it again and next time do it again. That we can help you with tremendously. And the other thing that we're going to be able to help you with quite a bit, again, being in this industry for 35 years, I've never seen food prices like this. I mean, the price of food out there right now is just
astronomical. Yeah, even
I was at a supermarket the other day, and this lady came up behind me, and she had a small child in the little basket, the little seat inside the grocery cart. And I mean, this grocery cart was packed full of food. Most of it was prepared foods, something already come in a package. Probably the worst thing in the planet you could put in your body is prepared foods. We'll get into that some other time. And, some of our shows will get into why prepared foods are not good for you. But she spent almost $300 on food. And I says, I got to ask, I have to. And I said, if you don't mind me asking, I said, is this something you do on a regular basis? She goes, this food will last my family about 7 or 8 days.
What?
She had, besides the baby, she had 3 other kids at home and her husband. So she's feeding a family of 5. So they're spending, she goes, it usually costs me someplace between $225 to $300. And I'm going, these people are spending $1,000 a month on food.
That's crazy.
They're spending $200 a week on food. And I'm going, wow. And I said, if she just took the time to do some of this stuff on her, because I'm looking at her basket, being nosy. I'm looking at her basket, see what she has. Most of the stuff in that basket you can make on your own, but you got to make the time to make it. She could probably cut her grocery bill in half, but you got to make the time to do that. And I went, oh, wow. This is when we were first, talking about this whole thing. And I'm going, wow, there's something here. I got to teach these people. There's, I
mean, it's going to save money. And then top of it, I think their biggest investment is probably going to be in Tupperware.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, I mean,
because you're going to have to be packaging these things and put them away, saran wrap or whatever you want.
Yeah, I mean, that's
plastic wrap.
I mean, that's the idea, is that they could get these amazing dishes they can make that'll last their family a week, and that's what you're going to teach.
Absolutely.
And I don't see a lot of that at all. In fact, I don't see it at all. I don't see any other channels that are saying, "Hey, look, we're going to prep all this, and here's how we're going to package it so it lasts your family an entire week."
Yeah,
right?
I see a lot. And don't get me wrong. I love barbecuing and doing all that kind of stuff. But how many people actually on a regular basis, when you plan your week out, if you have a family and you're planning your week out, how many people are thinking about going out and buying a pork butt, marinating it or brining it or rubbing it or doing whatever you do and putting it on a smoker for the next 10 or 12 hours?
Yeah.
Well, that's something you do, hang around a backyard with a couple beers and, do that on a special occasion. But how about the daily stuff? How about breakfast every morning? Right. How about lunch every day and dinner every night? There's nobody out there doing that. And that's what we're going to do, Adam. We're going to show these people how to cook for themselves and make these meals that'll be, number one, very nutritious, with or without meat. It makes no difference. If you want all your meats and everything in there, we can still show you how to do it that way. They're going to be full of nutrients. They're going to be a lot less expensive than going to the grocery store and buying something that's all prepared. And you'll be able to do this on a regular basis, and you'll be able to get knowledge. That knowledge will stay with you for the rest of your life. You don't lose that knowledge as long as you use it. And then when you start getting this knowledge of all your basics and your fundamentals, you can move into different directions and make different stuff that your family likes. Now, just because I make it a certain way doesn't mean if your family doesn't like it, then you have to make adjustments.
Of course,
and you make those adjustments because you'll know how, because you have the knowledge in food to be able to make those adjustments.
Now, and even better too, so people understand, the cooking's going to be an enormous part of this, but there's another part to this too. It's the actual let's give an idea. You have friends coming over, special event, especially in times like where there's COVID and all this nonsense, and so you have friends coming over, and you want to have a dining experience with your friends. You want to cook something for. So then on the channel too, they're going to example fine dining for the home.
Absolutely.
Right. The atmosphere settings, the platings, the proper silverware.
Yeah. Carrie will show you how to set up a proper fine dining table. I don't know if people realize this, but in an ultra fine dining atmosphere, which you worked in and I worked in most of my life, when somebody sits down at a table, at a seat on a table in an ultra fine dining place, from the time they sit down, if they have dessert and coffee, or even an espresso or something like that, there's 35 different utensils, plates, and glasses per person at those tables. So if you're sitting down with a party of 4, somebody in the back has to wash 140 different plates, utensils, glasses, and everything else. And all that stuff's got to be polished at the end of the night. So we can show you. No, I'm not going to say you have to use 35 different utensils.
Well, no, but that's just that's giving reference to what it is, right?
Right. But it's a whole different experience, and we can show you how to set up a table properly. So when your guests come over, they sit down, they look down and go, "Wow, this looks really cool. This is really nice. I really like what I'm doing here." It's not just a paper napkin with a fork and a knife sitting on top of it. if you get napkins, and we can show you how to set the silverware in the right type of glass to put water in, and all the different things. Is serving from the right, taken from the left, or is it serving from the left and taken from the right? I don't even know that.
Yeah, I say this too, and I think it's a great idea to do that. We're not going to get the details of what they're going to do. You'll just have to wait for the channel. But
absolutely,
I took a girl out for dinner once, and she's like, "Yeah, this is all fine and well, because nice restaurant." She goes, "But I'd like to see you do this for me at home." Oh. And I remember that stuck with me because I was like, because I remember at the time I was like, I got to call Alfie and pretend I did this shit. And you know what? Actually, I did. I did do it. You made it for me. And I came and picked him up. I remember that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So she's listening. Yeah, I didn't cook that. Too late for you to argue. But that's the idea. Okay. Yeah, so that's the idea. You could set that up, that element at your house, and make it almost like restaurant quality, a fine dining quality looking place in your house. That's
fine dining, if besides the ambiance and the service, the quality of the food, you can make the quality of the food at your house just as well as I can make it in my restaurant. It doesn't, it guaranteed, because I do it every day. I do it all the time. I can make just the same quality food in my kitchen at my house on a stove with a $15 pan that I can in a restaurant with, $100,000 worth of equipment. Right. The equipment is important when you get to a certain point, but for what you can do in your house, it's not that. It's all about how you do it, and your knowledge has really not a lot to do with. You don't need $1,000 worth of pans to make a great meal. I can make a great meal with a campfire and a cast iron pot better than most people can cook with their $1,000 pans.
Yeah, so Alfie's Simplistic Kitchen. This summer, preparation, filming, and by fall, the release.
Absolutely.
And so by fall, there'll be already a number of videos to select from, playlists, different dishes you could try out, different dishes you could make. And eventually, not yet, we'll release it when it's ready, but when people want to reach out to Alfie for classes, there's going to be Zoom classes available coming. So
yeah, well, I'll teach anybody. One of the things that I was taught a long time ago, Adam, by a person. It was a guy that I first worked for, much smarter than me, much smarter than I'll ever be, and he was my boss, and he said to me one time, he says, one thing that you always want to look for in a boss, which makes a great boss, is a great teacher.
Right.
He goes, if your boss doesn't teach you, he goes, then he's not a good boss. And that's something else that's always stuck with me. And I have no qualms about teaching anybody anything. Like Adam. Adam was a guy working out in the gym, came to a sports bar, and ended up working as a server in a fine dining restaurant less than 2 years later.
Yep.
So if you have the people that are willing to put the time in to teach you, and you have the desire to want to learn. If there's people out here that are listening to this and they have the desire to learn, get on this channel. I will teach you everything from the fundamentals of the basic cooking that you're going to need to start as a foundation. And from that foundation, we can build into anything that you want. You can do anything that you want with food after that, but you have to get the fundamentals down. You have to get the basics down. You got to build that foundation. Just like in any other trade or any other job that you do, there's fundamentals and there's a foundation you build. Once you build that, then you'll be amazed at what you're going to be able to do. And I will teach you how to do all that.
Yeah, and it's a different era too. So what he means by that, you could watch the channel, learn things, and apply that to real life, right?
Absolutely.
Go out and get a job, absolutely. Start your own restaurant, small restaurant, right? I mean, listen, I'm on the university at YouTube all the time. Anytime I want to learn something, I learn it. Just like the restaurant with you. Like I made sure I knew how to do every single thing in the restaurant, so that if anything fell short at that time, I could pick up the slack. Mm-hmm. So
absolutely. Well, they don't do that anymore, Adam. What they do now is Christian.
Yeah.
That guy.
Yeah.
We're talking about chefs. This guy's spooky talented. He lives he's been living on a Copper River up in Alaska for 20 years. I was talking to him last week, and we were talking about that. He goes, he goes, I see all these resumes come through and everything. He goes, I'm a broiler chef, or I'm a grill chef, or I'm a saute guy, or this girl worked in the pantry, or this girl worked on the broiler. This is what I do. I know how to cook steaks on a grill. Well, when we train people, you cook steaks on a grill, you got on a saute station, you worked in a broiler, you worked in a pantry, you knew how to do everything on that line. They don't do that anymore.
Yeah, it's a shame.
They did specifically teach somebody how to do one job and one job only. And that's a travesty when it comes to kitchen work. It really is.
Not to toot my own horn, fucking, I'm going to do it anyway.
Toot your horn.
At Jack's especially, between myself and Danny Huddleston, we could handle every aspect of the restaurant, minus some of the cooking, right? I wasn't there.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, you're right, though.
But
you can do 85%, 90% of what was going on.
And that's because we desire to learn it, and it was, so you had a good regiment behind you, right? So top it out even better. You had John Castricone. Not only could he handle every aspect of the business, he's a carpenter. He could fix anything, right? So
there's nothing he can't fix.
Yeah, cars, everything. So
everything. Johnny could fix anything.
You had a good crew behind you, man. They're all the way through it. So
yeah.
So through the years, you have years of experience with culinary, chef, and just all the different, even the medical experiences. So all in all, you're very, very experienced. Diversity across the board. So
extremely. I'm at a point right now where I got to give it away to somebody, and I'm willing to do that. I'm willing to give all this knowledge away, just to find people who want to learn about it.
Right.
And that's what we don't see anymore. I don't see that out there. I don't see somebody willing to give that knowledge away, or somebody ask a question of why you do it this way. I'll answer your question. I'll tell you why I do it this way. It's something that might be culinarily, from a cooking point of view, has to be done that way. It's the best way to do it. But we don't see that out there on any. I don't know.
It's a shame.
I watch a lot of cooking channels, and don't get me wrong. There's a lot of talented people out there. There's a lot of good chefs out there that are doing some really cool stuff, but I'm watching some of these things on these cooking channels, and I'm going, holy jeez. I said, I've been in this business. I've been a chef for 35 years. That would be tough for me to do. What's somebody that's going to know absolutely nothing about food, or very, very limited knowledge about food? How are they going to figure this out? They can't. They can't. It's impossible for somebody to figure some of these things out. And I'm going, how about just basic stuff here, guys? How about teaching people how to do this stuff? They're not teaching, they're showing. It's a big difference. Showing you how to cook and teaching you how to cook is a different thing. The old saying, give a guy a fish, give a guy a piece of fish and he'll eat tonight. Teach the man how to fish. He'll be able to eat for his whole life. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to teach you, not show you.
Yeah. And you don't have to be a genius to do these things. I'm going to give you an example.
No, you don't. I'm not that smart, guys. Believe me. I'm not one. If you go for intelligence in 1 to 500 in a class, I would probably be like in the 490s.
Listen, I'll give you an example. I had a friend, not going to name him, right? This guy's he's got a PhD, years of college, right, to become a scientist, right? And I was at his house one day, and he's going to make these shakes. He's putting everything in the machines. Like, trust me on this. I've done my research. This shake's going to give you energy. And he's hitting the button. Nothing's happening. Hits the button again. Nothing's happening. He's looking around, and he realizes he never plugged in the blender. Powerful moments. You know what I mean?
Yeah. All you need. That's all you need. You don't need to be a genius to be able to plug in a blender.
Indeed.
But it's again, those of you that think this is complicated, sometimes it gets complicated, but all you have to do is be an average person. It's not, again, I'm not that smart. I didn't fly through high school and fly through college. It's something that everybody can do. All you have to do is have the desire.
Yeah, it's passion, the will, and then the ability to absorb.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. All right, Alfie, we had a great conversation. Alfie's Simplistic Kitchen will be coming to YouTube. It'll be constant. I will have links to it, and definitely I'll bet it with my podcast. And hopefully here in the future not hopefully, we're going to get you.
Oh yeah, we'll get you.
Yeah, we're going to get you.
Yeah, we're going to get you because it's going to be the anticipation and the curiosity.
Yeah,
is going to be there. We're gonna again. We're going to teach you how to do these things, not show you.
In the meantime, everyone, I'm going to talk to Alfie in post. Have a good night, good evening, good whatever it is for you, and we'll talk to you again.
Thank you, Radam. I very much appreciate it.